Hello and welcome to TandyCast, Creative Saskatoon. I'm your host, Tandy Wilson. Today on our show, we have as our guest Brandon White, a photographer and videographer in and out of Saskatoon. We will be sitting down and discussing Brandon's many arts and talents. Let's jump in. I was hoping to hear some of the background of you and your photo and video arts.
Sure. Well, I guess as a preface to this, I would say I kind of come by it a little honestly. Like, I didn't, even being a university kid, I didn't go to school for anything artistic. It's just an aspect, I think, of life that I have always really enjoyed and felt comfortable in. That is artistic expression.
Yeah. So with to do with your experience, like you're self-taught then, is that?
Yeah, well,
okay.
It's just the way I see photography is that, and I guess maybe when you love something really deeply, all things are like this, but it's actually a culmination of like a little bit of a separate skill sets. And so for me, it's just a really good shoe to slide into because it involves communication and alignment with the client, just like we're doing now, trying to get some kind of cohesion of understanding about what we want to create together. And it's about co-creation, about like, I don't want to co-opt their story to my prerogative. I want to be able to create a safe space for the client where I can understand the imagery they want to exist and then co-create that with them. So it's really it's a good career path for me because I'm naturally love communicating, love making people, try to make people feel safe. Obviously, it doesn't always work, but I go out of my way to make people comfortable, and I think that's a good skill set. So the long and short of it is that there's separate skills involved with being a successful photographer, I think, or a successful artist of any kind. One of which is public engagement and being able to work with people, which I think I'm okay at, and then the technical side, which I've always been a computer geek and really like taking apart computers and stuff. So I just approached it from a technical perspective of like hardware and software, really loving learning about my tool, which is the camera, right? Yeah. Really almost symbiotically falling in love with it. So that it can not do my bidding, but it becomes an extension of you, right?
Nice, like the Silver Surfers.
Yeah, and I'm sure anybody who loves their craft has that same relationship with their tools. This microphone, right, is if you use it for the rest of your life like you want to, will become an extension of you. So I come by it real earnestly. I just always love people, love telling stories, and love co-authorship and creativity. So
there must be challenges within that, like you were saying. Like what are some of the biggest challenges of just operating with other people that you just meet? Like you were saying, if you wanted to use this as an example, like we're just trying to bring up this project where I interview you, get you to talk a whole bunch. What is there challenges here, or what are some of the past challenges you've had?
I don't think there's any challenge here. You're very have good energy, and you obviously you have good drive and vision for what you want this to be. So like there's no problems. For me, where I encounter problems is when, and this is like I think it's particular to like how you are as an artist and where your strengths and weaknesses are, right? Like I'm not perfect, and so certain clients are going to be a good fit for me, and certain ones are going to be a little more work for me. Does that mean I should or shouldn't take them? That's a personal decision. But as you go through life and you have more opportunities to do business and work with artists, because that's where I really love doing my photo videos, like with musicians. Although I'm doing a lot of weird applications of it, like. Musicians are the really enjoyable thing. I lost my train of thought on that one.
Well, I'll tell you this much: the creativeness of Brandon White doesn't end there. I mean, from my understanding, you've been not only involving yourself with combining video and film to music, you've also been writing. And I don't know if that's strictly poetry. I don't know if you've been writing music or not as well. But you've also been involved within music as well. Like you're a vocalist, I believe, as well as you play a multitude of different instruments. Maybe just a little background on that, because that's...
So that, tracing back a little bit, that is one difficulty, because I really love expression. And I'm lucky to have a few modalities through which I can express. But one challenge is juggling the time, right? And the investment, seeing time as a resource. And I can't pursue all of them simultaneously, it feels like. Mm-hmm. So that's definitely a challenge. And not being able to work with every artist. So that doubles back to like, I do think there's something to be said about being able to build a bridge between any client. But you start, as you mature as an artist or as a business person, finding out that like, okay, there is people that are my people, and there's people that aren't my people, and ultimately you want people that are psyched about your work, right? Yeah. And it's a tough economy, so it can be hand to mouth for anybody, but I'm just learning my hard lessons about like charging enough and believing in myself and stuff. Yeah. But that's one challenge, is to like, stand on your own and believe in yourself enough to ask for what you're worth. But at the same token, I got a lot of doors opened by being accommodating to people, because we all suffer and it's all hard out there. To go to your current question,
please. Just to say something on that, like we all are, when artists here in Saskatoon, they see someone else working and having a goal, they're almost they're accommodating to that goal, I would say. So
yeah, I mean, like,
would you find a different experience?
No, I think very much so. But that's what I like, right? Like I think life is inherently messy, and that can be a problematic view in business, because there should be delineations or whatever, but.
And getting back to like your writing and everything.
I think that creativity is really just a paintbrush that you apply your personality with.
You shouldn't limit yourself as an artist, I'm guessing.
No, I don't think it... Like going back to what I said about running and not having enough time, I think the logical runaway anxiety brain says, like, you better pick and choose, man, the things you want, because you only got so much of you that you can dole out. But I don't think it necessarily takes away. It can only enhance, in the words of Richard Feynman, talking about art and science. Like a scientific understanding of a flower cannot take away from the beauty of the flower. In the same way, me doing a bunch of different applications of expression can't take away from my photography. It can only enhance my understanding of art and photography.
Nice.
Does that make any sense?
It's an add-on to it, right? And like experience, you could take that experience and apply it to this. I completely, and what you said before, like I've been absolutely agreeing with everything you've been saying.
Okay, I'm kind of popping off, so I'm glad it's making some sense.
It is.
I do think that what you develop, what really was crazy to me in photography and videography was that you can buy all the expensive gear you want, you can have a banging studio, you can have all the connections and stuff, but you can't shortcut the eye. And if you want the same example of music, you can't shortcut the ear, right? Like you got to develop that. And what that really is paradigm. That's how you see the world, right? So I think all these pathways to creativity are beautiful, and they all feed back to the ocean of creativity, right? So I think it makes you more robust.
That's really amazing. And then further on, like you came to Saskatoon when you were 19. When did you really decide, I want to do this photography, this filmmaking aspect, the cinematic? Like, would you consider yourself a cinematic person, since you're collaborating multiple genres into multiple mediums into one?
Great question. Damn, that was well worded too. Like I said previously, I think creativity is just a paint that you apply with your personality. Okay. So I kind of have very loose definitions on different mediums and stuff, and I guess I would consider that I would love to, like, you know, direct or be a documentarian would be like the best, but because that would. We could talk more about it, but I'm doing some work for the University of Saskatchewan documenting like graduate students. I ran around Northern issues. So I've got 3 videos that are going to come out for the Johnson Shoyama School of Public Policy at the University of Saskatchewan, and they're going to be documenting travel of 12 graduate students, some of which came from Norway, all over northern Saskatchewan. I can show you a video
amazing. Please,
after.
I'll have to watch.
Yeah. And you know, it's great work, and I love celebrating scientists and science and knowledge and culture. So I tend to overshoot and do a lot of different things, but forever not wanting to be locked down and trying to celebrate as many humans as I can. So there's that whole science and different application.
It does seem like you bring a lot of aspects, and you're trying to like funnel it into one. Is that?
I think that's fair. It all comes through the camera, right?
Okay.
But I mean, a video is just so many photographs per second, right?
True.
And ultimately, I'm just using my refined eye that to answer your question, this is my 5th year shooting.
Yeah.
So, I just attacked it. Like, I just fell in love right away and was immediately putting a lot of time and attention into it in a very significant way, because it just felt like a natural conduit for me to express. Like I said when we started this interview, it was a culmination of a lot of those different skill sets, right? And it just felt right. Okay. So it's been 5 years. I started in graduate school. To wrap a bow on this question, I'm a cine in training. I'm lucky enough to work with Landon Johnson. Shout out Little Jack Films. So he kind of gave me wings in the video department, and I still am a little bit subservient.
What is he? Where is he directly involved in?
Well, I've really been a photographer for 5 years, and that's still the moniker that I would, take, right? But then I'm starting to do video now, really liking it, but I got my chops off Landon for the last maybe 3 years.
Okay.
So photos for 5, video for maybe like 2 to 3, and Landon was my way in.
Well, yeah, you done some photo with Bombargo, and that's
we're in a Bombargo house right now, FYI.
Oh, okay.
This is one of the guitar players.
Tour.
Yeah.
And we got the graciousness of
we're holding it down.
Holding it down. That's right.
Yeah, I was lucky to do some work for Bombargo. I know those guys. They're really great guys, and they're lucky. I guess I'm lucky that they like me and my work. So I did a little bit of promo for them.
Nice.
I also just did some promotional work for Portals. They're a new band. Not new, I shouldn't say that, but they're like an emerging, happening psych rock band in Saskatoon.
Oh, great.
And they've got a longtime player, Levy. He was in Volcano in Canada as a supporting guitar and vocalist.
Oh, okay.
He's a giant in the music scene here, and it's they have a great show coming up. Check them out. So I did some promo for them that they're going to be using ahead of their show. That's this month.
Okay.
It's at the end of the month. I think maybe the 26th. Don't quote me on that.
Okay.
Of October.
Sometime near Halloween.
Yeah, Portals, spelled with an X. Prxtals.
Okay, great.
So I did some work for them, and then just this past Friday, I did photos from like 11 to 3:30 a.m. outside of Saskatoon at an abandoned church with a band called Bad Kitty, all one word.
Bad Kitty.
Bad Kitty. There we go. But those are the most recent bands, and
well, that's good. And then I heard you had the first solo film making with a musical group called Crab Style. And I have seen this video like right when it came out, and I was absolutely so impressed with it.
What?
Like I loved it. Like I've tried my hand at videos, like especially in the hip hop genre, and yeah, I think you nailed it.
Wow.
You nailed it right on the head.
Thank you.
Especially for your first, that's like ultimately impressive. Like watching it, you wouldn't think it was your first solo project video. So.
Well, I'm highly neurotic, so I I comb over it all to like perfect. No, I'm learning to have through meditation and age, a better relationship with my perfectionism, but it still is a piece of my personality.
I like how you slipped age in there. Is that like? Is that like there's like we got to do this now?
No,
like,
no, sorry.
am I
No.
losing?
No, I just had like a pretty hefty diagnosis in the last 6 months, so that kind of like informs, that makes you reflect on your age and on your longevity and your legacy, I guess. Yeah. No,
I couldn't say it in better words. I think those were the ones I was trying to ramble out. But yeah, I like the way you put it.
Thank you.
Put it.
No, but I'm really lucky to have done the crap cell vid. Even though, I say it was it's not my first video that I've ever done. It was my first solo like music video that I'd ever done.
I'm hoping you got paid.
I definitely did.
Okay.
I definitely did.
Good.
They looked after me. Those are my boys.
Nice.
But at the same token, yeah, like I try to be cognizant of like musicians aren't making that much money until they're like successfully writing grants and stuff. So I'm not making like I would if I shot a wedding video or something like that.
Yeah.
But I will say, yes, it was mutually beneficial for both parties.
Great.
Yeah, I was really lucky. Those guys are all exceptional at their craft and really nice guys, and they have fun. And for me as a creative, like I can be really technical and really maybe you could say neurotic about wanting my vision to like happen and trying to make it happen. But so it's always good to have people that I also want to have fun, so that's how I buffer it, and I try to create a fun environment, and that's the feedback I've been getting lately is like, regardless of how the photos look, man, that was so much fun. And not everybody, in fact, most people don't like being in front of a camera, right? So that's the environment I'm trying to create, is get good results, but also make people comfortable, give them a good time.
Absolutely.
So we definitely had a good time on the filming of that video.
Oh, you could see it through the shoot.
Yeah.
It looks really good, man. But it's really interesting hearing that aspect, working with, like artists that you're working with artists. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there was another job that you did with Saskatchewan Environmental Society. Now, that must have been a little bit of a different challenge, like considering maybe a little experience or some tidbits about working with them.
When I went to university, I got a biology degree, so I kind of have a bit of a soft spot. I think everybody should, for the environment. Mm-hmm. So being able to work with organizations and NGOs that in some capacity, that's their mandate is to throttle back the reins of just run amok capitalism, which it's a state of mind, really. Like you're on the ride and you're spending as many tokens as possible on the ride, and any person that's just kind of waving in the distance like, hey, maybe get off, I applaud them. And I think that's what those orgs should represent, is that they're watchdogs, they're soft regulators, they're ethical voices. They offer a counter voice to just stepping on the gas. So it was really great to work with them and have some kind of advocacy, because I love working with bands. I love building up young musicians, because like I said, I play music not in a professional capacity, but makes me love people that are brave enough to do it professionally. So I want to lift them up. But then this working with the ecological org, totally different.
Imagine.
But then the motivation that comes in is from a more ethical perspective, and that pulls in my work like as a biologist. So
well, that's got to be nice if you still have a belief in what you're doing, right?
Is there a better reason to do something? Money is just such a shallow motivator compared to that.
Yeah, I could agree.
It's just the efficacy of it as a fuel is just, it's like comparing jet fuel to like bacon grease.
Okay.
Like if you look at how much power comes out from different motivators, right? Like when you believe in something, that's going to take you a lot further than the paycheck.
Yeah, well, I kind of recently had a discussion about this where, a lot of artists choose not to believe in the economical side so that they can have a fulfilling art experience with their craft, whereas like when you do end up going on the economical side, where it's not going to be as fulfilling. So if you do have an ethical role behind, if you have some meaning behind what you're doing, it's going to gain fulfillment throughout the long run. It's going to snowball into what you want, I'm thinking.
I agree, and it's a balancing act like anything else, right?
Oh, the impossible balance.
Yes.
That was the next thing mentioned.
And I think it's a spectrum, and I'm definitely more on the artistic side of the spectrum than the commerce. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's hard, and it's an evaluative process, right? Like you constantly have to reevaluate your pricing and what you think you're worth and yada yada. But I always make concession to work with musicians because I'm not there to I'm not trying to get rich off musicians. I'm trying to lift up the fabric of music through good media.
Yeah.
That's how I interact with the music scene at this time, rather than being a musical artist, is trying to lift up the fabric.
Can't go wrong with that, man.
But yeah, working with ESS was great. Tell stories about, small scale, how people have put in solar and geothermal and all these small things that, it's pretty political now because the government has taken away the subsidy. But there's always going to be that fight, right? It's just good to have options as a consumer, and to have some sustainable things that can catch you. We take a lot of things for granted, like power. That's always going to be A1. There's a lot of places in the world that don't, and in Canada, this is an issue in the election right now about potable, drinkable water on reserve. So,
absolutely,
I think anything that goes towards sustainability in art or in life is it's a smart move. Even talking about it. Let's talk about it. What's wrong with talking about it?
Just build any discussion that's started, anything that we can build on that discussion. I would agree.
Make relationships, network, even if you're antisocial.
All right, so I really enjoyed hearing about all of your experiences. Well, not all of your, but the sum totem of your experiences.
Thank you, man.
And I would love to hear if you have some shout outs though. I'm sure there's artists or some people that you would love to promote yourself.
For sure. I like that you give space for this, because part of my collaborative spirit makes me feel like, and this is real talk for me, that nothing creatively is ever done alone, and no man is an island. So anything that I got, there's a saying in science, standing on the shoulders of giants, right?
Nice.
We bring people into these fields and we lift each other up, and collaboration to me is the heart of existence. This is only a semi in the last couple years of my photo video craft, realizing that maybe that's what differentiates me, is that I love to get to know my clients and what they want to say and what the visions they have, and try to bring those out rather than co-opting for my own kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's kind of where my business kind of stands alone. And some people are like, man, that's not professional. You got to roll in with a vision and exact it. But just like we're doing right now, I prefer to flesh things out. So that's the spirit I'm taking into a more official version of my business. I never, it's dope that I can get connected to people like you and that people pay me to do jobs and stuff. But I've never done it legit, i.e. had business accounts on social media, and I never advertised. I gotta actually.
That's a big part of it.
Yeah, and that's where I said I'm probably more on the artistic than the commerce side.
Yeah.
But you gotta pull yourself to center, right? So I'm legitimizing. I'm making some business accounts. It'll probably be my name or B/W photography, because that's a pun. I love puns on black and white photography. So I'm gonna make official business accounts for that ASAP, and start dumping my backlog of thousands of photos that I have great material for. So shout out to myself and also Little Jack Films. He's my boy, Landon. Shout out to all the bands that were gracious enough to give me a shot, and all the. That was just it's a joy to work with Saskatchewan artists. Anytime I can work with new and upcoming artists, it's I feel real lucky. I think Saskatchewan has an amazing fabric of music and art.
Say someone was listening to this and they wanted to get at you right away.
Yeah.
Do you have an email they could reach you at?
You should go check out my website. Like we talked about, I do a lot of different applications of the camera, and so what I mean, that kind of bucks the trend because on Instagram and stuff, you gotta like specialize and like cultivate that feed and yada yada. There's a lot of like baby photographers and wedding photographers, and no shade, like specialization probably is a great idea, but I do a lot of different stuff. So check out the website, which is just my name, brandon-white.com. There's a query box in there that you can send me an email.
Good.
I do have like slotted pricing that depends on, you know, whether it's an event or a wedding or whatever, but I do think a lot of things are more nuanced than that, so I like to talk to the people, see what they all need, right? Because a lot of, even, let's take wedding for an example, because it's such a large endeavor, a lot of photographers in Canada will just have half day and full day rates.
Yeah.
And I come up from up north, man, people don't got the most money, or so they're like strategic about where they're going to spend it, right? Maybe you only need a couple hours. So
maybe when you talk to them, they could figure out a plan
whether it's
with you,
it's a flat rate or an hourly rate or whatever. Some of the best clients I might ever have in my life, or anybody might have, might not be the ones with the most money. Money doesn't derive the quality of the art. So I mean, you got to keep your ear to the ground and open for people to collaborate with at every price point, but then just also know your worth. Like maybe it's one photo that I do for a band, and I'd do that. Like, get me into your show for free, and I'll pop off one photo. Like whatever. Yeah, let's lift each other up. Let's share music. Let's share love. It's all good. There's always a way to collab.
It does sound like you're a very influential person, very loving person.
Oh.
And I thank you so much for being a part of this, because I mean, you're helping me out. So, and I love your talk of helping artists out, and I do highly appreciate this.
Oh, thank you. You can't see, but there's a handshake going on. Thank you for having me. I respect to you for doing this and for telling people stories. I love that about that spirit of people.